pulling all this stuff together, they're grinding it up, and they're making sausages. They're doing network analysis, malware analysis. Their job is to take the information they have or gather more from the different groups, put it all together to say, this is what happened, this is who did it, this is what they're going to do with it, and this is how you better fix it. This is the most important group. And when somebody calls me up and says, hey, I need a cyber forensic investigator, or whatever they call it, they don't even know what they're looking for, which is kind of fun. And you educate them of what they're supposed to be doing. Now, we have the other groups that are important from the fact that the cyber threat analytics guys, if you have a SIM or tools or logs, they are the ones that are looking at events that are stored in your SIM. What's happening to it? Who's doing what? They help find the incidents. They find the events of interest that you need to investigate and triage. Then we also have the cyber threat intelligence guys that pull data from tons of sources. Open source. If they're smart, they'll pull the threat intelligence from all your onboard sensors, your firewalls, your routers, your switches, and they'll put together a cyber intelligence feed or package that can be consumed by the forensic investigators or your tools. And then, of course, once CFI, this is kind of fun. I go to a lot of companies, we have an incident, we all run around, they wake up, the executives and about 5,000 people to say they have an incident, it turns out it's nothing. If you don't have that CFI, you're going to continue to do that to yourself over and over and over until you have no credibility because you keep crying wolf and you look like an idiot. So once we go from an event of interest to an actual security incident or event, your CERT team comes in. They just pass it off and go, here's everything that you need to talk about intelligently and remediate that incident. It's really two different teams, and I've seen where they have them all bunched together, and it ends up confusion, and everybody's going like this, you're supposed to do that, you're supposed to do that, and it doesn't work out that well. So these are some of the big roles. There's a lot of fighting about who's doing what, different managers going, I want to do this, I don't want to do that. It's brutal sometimes. It's a lot of fun. You have people that like the sexy technology, I'm a malware analysis guy, and everybody fights with that. Well, nobody does it. And most of you have, in small organizations, you're doing all of this. Or you have a team of 50 people. Either way, these are your roles, and I'll show you why. This, you can't see it, I'm sorry, but this is kind of a big flow. And we'll talk about how the tools and processes and procedures develop this. On the left-hand side, we have security incident, security event of interest, a discovery. On the top, it's passive. We may discover something through threat intelligence. Our counter-threat analytics people dig something up. They're looking at something, they stumble over it. Oh, okay, let's send this up. And then we have active discovery down here, where they're looking for a very specific thing, and they find it. And you have different controls and vulnerability management. It might be an IBM MSSP that woke up and go, oh, we should open a ticket. No matter what, it goes into your ticketing system because it cannot stress upon you how important metrics are to keep your job as well as to get additional funding. So once we have a ticket, somebody's going to have to look at it. In the upper right is really the brains of the operation. The CFI guys, the sausage makers, they're going to take everything from the ticket. They're going to go to the different teams. They're going to go to counter-threat analytics. We have these indicators of compromise or these events or whatever it may be. Go find across the corporation where this has occurred before. So they go do their task. They go over to the cyber attack surface management, the pen testers, and say, okay, done pen testing on our network. You know where our vulnerabilities are. Are we actually vulnerable to this? Give me that data. You get the intel guys, are we patient zero? Or did this come out 6 hours ago and in 6 hours in cyber time, 8 years ago, so we already know how to deal with it. We pull all of that back, we mix it all together, we generate a report. We have to be able to factually say, this is what happened, this is where it came from, this is what it is, and this is what you need to do to fix it. And we're going to determine if it's an incident or not. And then we fire that off from incident classification to the incident response people who have procedures to deal with this stuff. You just don't pop this out and start doing it. The incident response people usually take 6 months to a year to talk to all the departments, get the process together, do some tabletop testing, and get their act together so you don't look like a fool. And I've been in some of them where I just sit there and put on mute laughing and I'm like, oh, what a disaster. It happens. So anyway, if it's routine, containment activities, we remediate it. If it's a thing where you're going to be on CNN, we get the executives involved, and we start doing the old disaster management procedure. So that's kind of how we define the roles and how we flow through events. Now, you guys have been around for a while probably, or if you haven't, there's a lot of easy stuff out there now. And we talked about incidents. Malware. Malware's gotten so easy. There's so many samples. Almost, my 14-year-old kid comes in and goes, oh, look, there's a virus. You look, he saw a funny-looking name and goes, I don't know what that file is. Sure enough, it got infected. So, a lot of known stuff is out there. Your life is really easy. You don't have to do much. It's no big deal. In the last 3 or 4 years, things have gotten really nasty with the nation states, intellectual property theft, the hacktivists. They've gotten really smart. They have written some very, very good code. And there is no silver bullet. We're going to buy this tool or this control to do that. It doesn't exist. Because they're really freaking sneaky. They know what the different tools are. And they test how to get past FireEye. How do we get past McAfee? How do we get past these controls? So they know that. This is where we get into the hard stuff. The people that are in your company that you know about or not know about. We had a guy out in California, a contractor, came to work for us, worked there for 2.5 months and then vanished. Passed the background check. Everything, legit. That didn't exist. He had gone onto the network, planted a bunch of stuff on there, exfiltrated data, and left a bunch of remote control stuff there and sucked up all the data. It was awesome. And there's also simple insider operations where people are copying stuff with ELP and that type of thing. So it starts getting harder to figure out what they're doing. You have malwares that simply run in memory. There's different ways to pull things in where, you can't find them by traditional means. And also dealing with the data exfiltration because most companies don't want to put in SSL encryption to actually see what's going on in the network. So it's tough. Those are the harder things to deal with. And let's talk about how we can fix that. And I get booed when I talk to engineers about this because it's hard, they think. They think it's damn hard. It's not. They're just using the wrong tools. And you're probably playing League of Legends and you want to deal with it. But people chuckle, and I can't tell how many IT people have fired for doing that all day long. Anyway, so we want a baseline, right? That's normal in our environment. We're trying to build a profile, so we have these unknown activities or events that they stick out. MD5 hashing, no big deal. You can pick up the tools that are out there and hash everything on your network. Whether you use free tools, and we'll cover here a little bit, or use commercial tools, you can collect that data and do things with it. Same thing with your applications. What should be running? Yes, you go talk to IT. What application should be running? I don't know. You give them a list of 5,000 applications, and they go, well, what do you think? I'm like, I'll block them all. You have to sit there and figure all of this out, because otherwise it's a disaster. Something will happen, and you will be blamed. So you want some type of baseline, even if you start really, really wide. After a period of time of collecting stuff like this, you'll kind of know where things are. I spend a lot of time where the money is, in the databases. You use database activity monitoring. When people break into the network, they're going to steal your email, where documents come. You want to go to the database and where the money is. You want to get past your database encryption, they want to steal your data, And I can't tell you, I've got, working on a project right now, we have a couple hundred database servers with tons and tons of database applications. And I've got a painstaking go through there going, okay, we've got this query or this stored procedure. Should they be doing that? And they go, oh my God, no, that's sensitive data. How is this happening? They don't even know. I focus on this. This is hard. It's painful. The developers paid for it because they had to reverse engineer what they wrote last year. They don't remember it. So that is where the money is. Instead of, this is a problem. Everybody goes out to buy controls for the whole company. Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars, and boom. They really have to improve their security because it's too wide, too thin. And if you want to focus on it, they don't know where the critical assets are. I go into a company and go, give me a business continuity plan. Because they should have a business impact analysis in there. They don't have that. So you can't really have a business continuity plan, and you can't really plan to buy controls unless you know the stuff that you want to get. So this is fun. And it's not too hard. It's just headache. And what I do is I get interns. I get people to do the dirty work. I am not going to spend $100,000, $150,000 a year guy getting this data. I'll get a bunch of guys in, temps or interns, and this is all they do. And they hate it. But it's great, except for the database stuff. That's too hard. Okay, next one. So, kind of baseline, right? Now, we know what our baseline is. Now we have to instrument the network. Instrument. You have your data, right? Up on the right, you see the Hunt brothers. Anybody know who the Hunt brothers were? Hunt brothers captured the silver market. They collected every piece of silver and cornered the silver market. You're going to do the same thing when it comes to logs. If there is a log or a text file that has something interesting in it that may help you analyze the fact, you've got to collect it. Have to. And you're going to get a lot of data. I end up with, I don't know how many terabytes of data per day in logs that I have to analyze and process. Next one, application identification, pretty easy. Now, if you have a Palo Alto firewall, a checkpoint, anything that's relatively new and modern, you can use that to identify the applications on your network. And I love going in there going, okay, I have 600 applications. Go to the policy people and say, which one of these meet your acceptable use policy? And they're like, oh. And you have to sit there and put your intern and work with them and help them do the baseline. Now, under the instrumentation piece, we talked about getting your hashes and applications and things like that, right? If you don't have a ton of money, you can't buy Encase, Enterprise, or Cyber. I really don't enjoy Encase because I can go out there and get Google Wrap Response for free. And when we do breach remediation, that's one of the things we use. I was down in Brazil for 2 months on a major incident. We deployed Google Rapid Response Agent to 80,000 PCs within a week. And within a week, we could profile this disastrous, unmanaged network and figure out what was happening. And it was much more of a problem because the initial incident was a bot that was sending all their data out to DNS to China. But as we're digging through there was about 2 dozen other breaches. And, anyway, it was a long story. But Google Rapid Response can collect your baseline data for you that you could either deal with in the Google Rapid Response framework or put it in the SIM. Kanza, anybody familiar with Kanza? Use it? Kanza uses, you're a smart guy. We use Kanza because we can take whatever PowerShell scripts we want and collect data in real time. It's kind of an instant response framework, but we took that and we automated it. We have data collections that run all day long that pull data that maybe we want to pull a little bit quicker than Google Rapid Response, and we stick that in a database/SIM so we can query it. And then, of course, we've got all the endpoint stuff. I need some network stuff. So, I can't go out there and get a budget for Network Instrument Observer or Network General. It's too expensive. Moloch is awesome. Moloch is the coolest tool out there you can put out there. It's free. You can build a giant distributed Moloch capability, gives you PCAP capability. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And it allows you to do some investigations. And lately, not lately, but Thread stream, modern honey network. Anybody have fun with that? No one? Okay. This is a honeypot. And they moved honeypots now. They're changing the marketing term to deception technology, Javelin networks, Alcavio. And those are kind of awesome because before, when I had to manage tons of honeypots out there, it was a headache, a real headache, and they were kind of limited. You know, with the deception technology, I can deploy it all over the network, and I know that nobody should be touching those things. You should be touching these things. I build things that look really sexy, and if somebody breaks into your network, they're going to go, I want that. And they'll start messing around with it, and they gather that data. You know, I can look to see how they're penetrating the network, and I can record it. I've seen people on there for hours going, oh, this is great. They're actually doing nothing. They're hacking a virtual environment that doesn't exist. And I gather all of their operational capabilities, and tools, techniques, all that stuff. So that's our instrumentation piece that we can put out through the enterprise. Now this is a headache. Well, I work with lawyers. I say, what's your policy? You go back and forth. They're so broad. You know, they just don't want to define anything. You know, I try to use the club to meet people in submission, and try to get people to define standards. And, you know, it's tough. It is really tough. Some companies, after getting burned and costing a couple $1 million, they get very specific. They make their employees sign the policies yearly because we're going to have to either fire or prosecute them because, you know, there's things we put in place that we need to prove that they know what they shouldn't be doing. Then you start working around trying to get the business processes. How do things work? When do people work? Where do they work? What systems do they access? And we had a discussion about user-based analytics before this started. And yeah, you need that information if you're going to build any type of user-based or network-based analytics to determine what's going on in your network. And you know, when you look at some of these things out there, you know, finally they throw up their hands and you tell us, what do we need to do? Because they get sick of you badgering them. And they know you're right. They don't want to do it. They don't know. But guess what? Pull my pocket full of interns, sick them at it, go do it. And the biggest problem I have is dealing with HR. I have had this conversation for 20 years. We love everybody. The network is a benefit. People work 10, 12 hours a day. They can surf. They can listen to iHeart. They can do whatever they want. You know, they see no evil, hear no evil. And I go, okay. And I hear that conversation, and I have it at an executive level, and you know, document that. We go back and have the same meeting a couple weeks later and go, God, those people are working. Let's look at this department. They're working X hours. Pull out a report. Oh, in those X hours, they spent 40% of their time watching Netflix or DirecTV or whatever. And it kind of shames them into, you know, talking a little bit differently. And then that's one piece of the conversation. You know, and the executives go, oh, okay, well, yeah, people are screwing on it. We don't care about that. And then you pull out, here's what a breach is going to cost you. And we have a metric again, that shows you every incident that we investigate costs X dollars. And we take those X dollars for the last 6 weeks and go, you just spent $300, $400, $1 million on remediating this. All of a sudden, HR people get squashed. Anyway, so we take that piece and we try to put this together. Next one, please. You were here for the Threat Intel speech last year. There is a lot of stuff out there for you. You have to pay a ton of money for it. At one company, we pay $12 to $15 million a year for Threat Intel. Outrageous amount of money. You know how useful it was? We got rid of, after doing it, I came in and did an effectiveness metric again off of it. We cut it down to about $1 million. And we kept that $1 million just because we wanted to say we had it. Anybody use Alienwall, Open Threat Exchange? We have a group out there called MIST, and we collect hundreds and hundreds of open source feeds. We generate our own threat intelligence. We post it out there because we feed the MIST. We also have Soldier Edge is dead. They killed it. We still use it because it's a stable platform, and we need a Styx taxi platform that we can move data back and forth with. MIST pulls some data, and we'll hold some data. We need to interchange data with other companies. Our threat intelligence is very important because whether you work medical, DoD, someone will always get hit before you, and if they get their IOCs to you and you have things up quickly, it will be pushed down to your controls, so when they come after you, who cares? You've already remediated that event. So record it. It's fine. Let's do the next one. Okay, so we have all of this stuff. We need to be able to collect it somehow, right? I go to some companies, they have 50 different security consoles. They got Pro, they got IDS, they got multiple firewalls, they have tons of them. They have all different guys working on consoles. No one knows what the guy next to them is working on. That doesn't work. It's very expensive. I hate to say the word big data, it's called big D because that's the big word now. And it's all right. ArcSight, Q1, those are all big money vendors. It doesn't matter. I mean, as long as you can collect the data. I mean, some companies use NXLog. It's $200 for an enterprise version. There's an elastic kit front end. And in the next slide, I'll talk about that. We collect the data, and we have people that just need to quickly query what happened, who did it, etc. And it works great for that. It doesn't do a lot of correlation, but as you collect this, you have to make sure that the data you're collecting is correct. The timestamp is right. The fields are parsed. It's relevant. Don't collect things that are useless, what some people do. It costs a lot of money. But no matter how you collect, and when I throw this number out here, people that have been in ArcSight for years, or Q1, or whatever it is, and you start talking 15, 20,000 EPS, like, oh, that's a lot. Well, we're hitting about 1 million EPS. And it was impossible before, just because of the way traditional databases, if you wanted to scale it up, it's really expensive because you had to go wide. Now, data collection, you can go as far and wide as you want. You can go look at the HP conference last year. I did a presentation on how we scaled up to over 1 million events per second. And when I say 1 million events per second, that's just not collected. That's correlated with incidents coming off of that, which is phenomenal. And of course, the big one here, you collect it, how long are you going to keep it? Because that costs money. All right, here's a really simple picture. So I've got 40,000 Windows servers, lots of logs. I've got on-haul, unconducted log sources that are a disaster. I've got 8 billion syslog devices, which I send to a load balancer because I move stuff around in the back and I don't want to change them all. Now, Windows centralized logging is kind of cool. I push all my Windows logs to Windows centralized logging infrastructure, or I can correlate, I can kind of bake it down, and I can send it, and I can determine what I want to send and what I want to receive. Here, in the middle of all this, I put an intermediary platform for a couple of reasons. I want to save money. ArcSight, Q1, all of these vendors charge you for events per second, or how much data that you collect. So if I'm running 300 events per second, 300,000 events per second, excuse me, that's a big cost. Do I really need that data? And as I build these different correlation or these log collection platforms, I want to get to the point where I'm only collecting things that are relevant, things that I'm going to do something with. Now, I may collect everything, and I send it to what we call a data lake. Just a giant database, do whatever you want to use, Mongo, and I put it there so I can query it. And then the things that I'm actually going to do something with, let's into a SIM, where I want to further be able to process and do some other magic with it. But it saves me money. I can scale this out very large, and I can do a lot of my filtering and parsing on that intermediary platform. Works very well. Saved us a lot of money. All right, let's test your knowledge. You want to save sheet music here? We've got collected our baseline knowledge of our enterprise. We've instrumented our enterprise. You know, we've looked around. We've solved the servers. We know we've got the switches. We've got maybe a firewall in front of them. And we've instrumented where it's important. We've collected some sort of business rule of what we should or shouldn't be doing. You know, something we can. And then we pulled in our threat intelligence. Now what do I do with all that, right? Anybody?
Response, next steps.
No, it's making it close. One correlator. There are some easy things that are out there that if this event happens, we know it's bad. That's simple. That is the simplest thing out there. We know if somebody comes in, they get malware, we get a FireEye alert, it's malicious, it went to the workstation. Okay, easy. What's tough is when we have events that occur singular by themselves is nothing. When we have 4 or 5 different events that may occur over a week or a month, that means something. So you've got to get a really good SIM content developer to know, all right, or hacker, how do I break into stuff? And if I break into stuff, how do I move laterally? How do I compromise more? How do I get a bigger foothold in this network? And you've got to build all of these different laws and correlating together to say, we have something interesting happening. And I will give you a present if you don't generate 1,000 incidents in an 8-hour shift. I'll beat you if you do that. I mean, that is the hardest thing is it something important or not? You've got to know what those logs are. And I get into an argument with an event of interest or a security event. Well, some people use interchangeably. I'll do it sometimes. But as soon as you say security incident, that becomes a different story. That means you have an incident. I've got 1,000 events of interest. 1,000 of them. Now I've got to figure out how many people I have and how many I can triage. So I've got to look at all of these things, and I've got to look at, is it defined correctly? When I develop use cases, it's hot as hell in here, and I have enough coffee to a horse, but when I get the event, did they define it correctly? I write about a 10-page document that says, I have this log, here's the use case. We fully define what that use case is, because that use case is used by the SOC, the forensic investigators, the incident response team. You're going to call something out and say, this is an incident. They're going to look at the use case and go, the fidelity of that sucks. Can't. How reliable are the logs? And the event. Is this noise? Is it a real event? Have they tuned the IPS? Have they tuned the firewall? Or are you just getting a bunch of garbage that no one has actually done anything with? And of course, as the CEO, look at the sensitivity. Are they accessing our PII, credit card, executive information? You've got to take that all together and build some type of scoring system and automate it. You can't possibly burn through 1,000 incidents in 8 hours. And you've got a 24-hour shift, 3,000 incidents. So you've got to bubble stuff up. This is kind of an idea where, you can't see it back there, my little pointer doesn't work. But in this case, we have a SIM. We're collecting tons of data, and we have use cases defined in the SIM. And data's coming in, a couple 100,000 events per second, it's processing stuff. And I have a small SOC that doesn't do anything until they get an event of interest. But they're not going to get that event of interest because I'm going to take my threat intelligence, I'm going to take my use cases, and the SIM goes, I correlated something. Well, okay, you correlated something, but let's go look out into the real world. I'm going to fire off, in this case I have encase. I say, encase, give me a snapshot of that computer. Who's on it, what are they doing, what are the hashes, what programs are running. I gather real life statistics about what's happening to that computer, and I push it back to the SIM. I go down to my deep packet inspection appliance and go, I want a PCAP capture 5 minutes before, 5 minutes after, pull that data back into the SIM. Here's what happens. I'm going to correlate that again. So, got my bucket down, events of interest, pulled more real-time data, correlated that down, and if it's routine, we can do certain things. Push the computer off the network, shut the machine down. There's tons of things that we can do automated. A lot of those, just for image machine, et cetera, et cetera. If it's not routine, this is when we get into the cyber forensic people to say, we have an incident, you've done all of this, here's the use case for it. Go tell us what happened. And they'll get involved. So we want to get down from thousands per shift down to 20 to 30 or 40. Puts the burden on the content developer and a lot of testing. So that's kind of how that works with SAM and correlation and use cases. Very good use case definition and some tools. All right, so the next one. Now, we have the events already. We're going to triage it. So SOC gets it. And I can give the same incidents to a level 1, level 2, and a level 3. Level 1 usually, oh, this is nothing. Then we do another review by 2. A lot of times they'll go, oh, no, you missed this because this is what's happening. Sometimes they'll miss it in level 3. We'll go in there, and they'll miss it as well. But everyone that misses it goes in there, and they have a degree of confidence they have dealing with that incident, which will push it up to the next level. You get to level 3, it dumps over to the forensic investigators who will determine what that is. In most cases, when I deal with people, especially on SOCs, I'm hiring zombies. I don't want to hire a bunch of people that are $120,000 a year to work on a SOC. That is not a good use of my investment. I hire people that are 10, 15, 20 bucks an hour, and I build the intelligence behind them. All the SOC does when they get a ticket, they look at it, they look at the use case, they look at the validity, and they'll either bubble it up or they'll mark it as a false positive. Even when they do, it still gets reviewed. I can get 10 SOC guys for every 1 guy. Now, as I get level 1, level 2 is more expensive, and level 3 gets really expensive, and the guys are super expensive. Now, I have a team, 10 to 15 of those guys, and it costs me money, but metrics again, they've saved me hundreds of millions of dollars every year. That's why I keep getting one. So we want to, the SOC guys, well, we want to be trained, we want to further recruit. Just we want to investigate on them. We're not hunting on my time. Take a class. So I deal with zombie employees, and I want zombies that can push buttons. I don't want them to think. It kind of sucks when I say that, but it's a cost factor. And then you get into the MSSP hell that take your money and they send you work once in a while, and they're not that great. That'll's not bad. Some of these other ones are just horrible. So you even write the logic for the MSSP as well. Have to. The key, you better have a process, the tools and techniques to remediate this, because you have to be able. You have an incident and you miss it. Target, wasn't that awesome? We spent, I don't know how much they spent on their FireEye deployment. They had the incident right there. And you wonder, okay, did they miss it? Or they weren't looking at the console? Or was somebody looking at the console and they just didn't want to deal with it?
Information overload, maybe they saw it, but just didn't.
No process. They don't have to do it.
Disseminate that for something else.
You will see most companies, and I was on one, they spent $50 million, they bought all of these tools, and they didn't hire any people to deploy it or manage it. But it looked cool, and they knew if they got in trouble, this is a litigation strategy they had, is to prove that they bought the tools, and they had a deployment timeline, and that was their excuse. None of the companies I have seen has gone through there and said, we're going to buy a tool, how many FTEs to manage it? They don't do that. They buy 12 tools, it takes 3 people to run it, they have no one. Then they try to outsource it, and they see what it costs, and they're like, oh. All right, so anyway, you miss an incident, keep missing it, you have no credibility. In fact, they wonder why they even have you. Management should be reviewing what you're doing and reports. And most importantly, you better be producing metrics. Otherwise, you're paying all these guys, I have 20 guys, or 50 guys, or 100 guys, to deal with security. What are they doing? I don't get any reports. I don't get the metrics of how many things they remediated, how many things they caught. I don't know what's going on. So if the budget comes, they're not doing anything. Just get rid of them. Prove your existence. We produce a metric. We write a report up. This happened. If we have not remediated this, the cost would have been $400,000, million, $2 million, $10 million, whatever it is. We produce a metric. It's useful. All right, let's see what we got here. Now, we're starting to get into the triage and incident response part, and this is fun. Down at the bottom, we've got the sausage factory, the forensic guys, we've got the SOC. These guys are really the tip of the sword that are going through there dealing with the day-to-day disaster that's happening on the network. So it kind of flows over this way, and then when something happens, you toss it to the incident response people. The incident response people, oh, we have an incident. Who does what? And how do we keep this from happening in the future? So when you read the report, we talk about what security control failed, why it failed, or if we don't have one, where do we need to remediate this from happening again with a cost? And then I've got to figure out, as an IR guy, who's doing what. So I have an event from forensic guys that they send up to incident management. I will remediate that event, but now I've got to figure out, I need to talk to somebody in threat management to monitor that unremediated event. I need to talk to architecture going, your design is wrong because this happens. And you've got to map this out because all of it ties back to policy standards in architecture. The disaster that you're seeing is a result because this management services failed. Unfortunately. And it failed down at the security services level, and that's it. You're cleaning up the mess and the failure that they gave you. So this is so much fun to map this out. Who's doing what? So this is probably a 6-month journey or a 2-year journey. I have some enterprises that are out there. Goes back planning. I started a new gig over here. I'm with HR. And says, I'm going to give you probably 10 to 20 employee investigations a month. Oh, good. We really want to enforce policy enforcement. I go, okay, it's coming. It's coming. I want you to be prepared. Oh, we got this. We got it. Got in there, set up some tools, built an environment. I flooded them with the first batch of 12 incidents. People working at the company, running other outside businesses, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. They're like, what do we do? Who's doing it? How do we handle this? I'm like, well, you told me you had it. I told you, when I come with your incident, I'm going to seize that computer. So we were seized 12 computers. I'm like, well, that's going to make the employees sad. We want to go and take it from them and make them feel better about it. So it takes a long time to work out these processes with HR. And it's great because if you pound on HR with incident after incident after incident, they're going to go, you know what, maybe these employees shouldn't be doing this stuff on the network because I don't like working at 10, 11 at night. Mm-hmm. And then when you work with legal, you're like, oh, don't do this to me. They're busy enough. They're doing contract law. You're forcing us to go out to our third-party law firms. It's costing us a ton of money. Just stop it. And this is great. Executives come down. Quit firing my people. My goal is to fire 1% of the company. I used to be a cop, and the thing is, 1% of the people are bad. I take that mentality to the company. 1% of the people are causing you a headache, and I want to get rid of them. Because I am the laziest guy out there. I get the dirtiest work because the laziest person will make the most complex tasks simple, which is why you see so many slides. Metrics on these responses, metrics. Executives want to see them to justify why you exist and why you want to spend $10 million on tools. And automation and pre-canned responses are absolutely critical. All right, so now we get into the IR management piece. If you're in healthcare, high trust, this 861R2 incident response. Now, there's a lot of different incident response framework, giant framework. If you were the government or the state, you had a ton of money with a ton of staff, you could do a lot of things. In corporations or in fast-moving environments like you're working with a leased contractor or something like that, fast and nimble. Who's in control? Who's managing this incident? Is it the IR people? Do you have the authority to act as legal counsel or as the CEO of the company to say, you, Mr. Vice President, step away from the computer or whatever it is? Who is in control of that? What is being done? You pushed out all these tasks, who's doing them? And who are the tasks assigned to? All these things you have to track. We have things that may be sitting in networking for weeks. and you have an active incident, and we know about it, yeah, it's bad, we should do something about it. But you've got to have that heartbeat to keep pushing them, and in some cases to hammer, to make them do what they're supposed to do. So this is key. There's some management platforms that are out there. You've got FIR, Fast Incident Response Indicators. It's put up by the French. It works well. It's free. Hopefully, if you use it and it crashes, you know how to fix it. But it's been fairly stable for us. Crits, we pull in a lot of data into crits. It works well. Over malware analysis of incidents are tracked there. And we wanted an incident response platform. Some companies can go out there and buy D3 or D for $100,000 some dollars. Most companies aren't going to spend that kind of money. We found the CPR guys like $4 or $5 grand. Works very well. Executives can go in there and say, here's our metrics, here's what's going on, here's the incidents, here's my risk. That's IR management. A lot of work, a lot of planning, and you want results? We do training exercises every month. And on that slide here. Let's talk about, this is our ER file. You look at this, you're like, ugh, bonkers. Well, these are the high-level processes, and we have documents and procedures that detail what we do. The contact, what's your role, what's your responsibility, and all of this, frankly, one of the reasons why I do it is I take it and put it into an incident response framework. So when an incident comes in, my workflow is already designed. So it comes in me. I'm a cyber forensic on call that day. I know that that's not automated. I know I have to go to NCASE, pull an image. I have to send that over to the malware analysis guy. He has to do it, and it pushes the workflow automatically by sending emails and pages to people to work through the incident response framework to deal with it. Well, you can't do that until you've actually defined it. And buy-in from legal, HR, everybody that's involved. So this is a great exercise to do and then actually execute and test it every month with a different type of incident. I have thousands and thousands of incidents, and out of the thousands of incidents, I've actually, we pushed it down that everything that happened in our network or our enterprise can be pushed down to 25 different classes. So there's 25 different process flows of what to do. So when I hire people, I don't need them to think, I need them to execute. I get this incident, I know how to do a snapshot job in case. I know how to go into Google Rapid Response and pull data in. So they know what to do. They just follow the process. All right, so you got the whole process down. If you don't have a red team, blue team, you're going to be embarrassed. You've got the whole thing done. You've got your forensic investigators, you've got your process, you've got your automation. You have something happen, and you've called a P1 or a P2, you've got all the senior executives, you have outside legal on it, and you look like a fool. This is why you have the bad guys and the good guys fighting each other on the network. Do it once a month. Start very simple. Simple email malware. How do you handle it? And you cheat the first couple times. As you stumble, the red team goes, hey, you might want to look at traffic going to XYZ domain, or look at DNS, wherever it may be. You cheat a couple times. Build up the confidence. You take away the little hints. They put the training wheels, kick them off from underneath them. After about 4 or 5 months, I let them embarrass themselves internally. And I've seen the investigators go, oh man, my kung fu isn't that good. I better learn how to do a little bit better malware analysis. I didn't know how to do a PCAP correctly when I threw network content. It pushes people to extend their knowledge. Whether it's technical knowledge or procedural knowledge, you have to do this over and over and over again. So you play to win. A lot of people, especially in IT, with their type A personality, they get really pissed when they lose. They can cause a firestorm. But it's how you brief and how you manage the exercise. That's it. Questions?
Quick question. For your tier 1 alerting, let's say it passes on to tier 2 and tier 3, how many percentages of those incidents end up in like the cyber forensics people, if you have the ballpark?
And that's how the companies, like, you know, at Fortune 10, we ended up anywhere 50 to 100 per day. But you have a team of people. I could have a cyber forensic investigator, you know, I could process 30 incidents per day. Some do it 4. Skill level, comfort level is really hard. Triage in that workflow is hard. Automate as much as possible because you're not going to get unlimited employees to triage the events. Automation, automation, automation.
How do you typically handle this case when it's caused by the CEO or CFO or somebody hired in chain command, like HR?
What happens is usually about once you start this off, the first 6 months internally as a group, and then for 6 months. But at day 1, you schedule a tabletop exercise where I had to leave up HR and executive, and you run through a full-blown exercise with the executive, and it does wake them up. And they appreciate it. They really enjoy it. Is that it? Right. Thanks for coming out.